Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Baxter Student Ambassador Program webinar. Presenting for us today is Sara McCormick, one of our BSAP finalists from Humber College. Hi, Sara, how are you?
I'm great, thanks. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, thanks. So just before we get started, I'm going to quickly introduce a few of the people attending today's webinar. We have Kevin Smith, Program Coordinator of the Tourism Management and Travel Industry Services Program at Humber College, Carol Greenwood from the Tourism Industry Association of Ontario, and Dennis Smith from SCAL Canada. Several representatives from Transat are viewing the webinar as well. Here at Baxter Media, we have Wendy McClung, Emily McClung, Ashley Rochford, and I'm Dan McDonald. So for everyone viewing today's webinar on the computer, if you have any questions during the presentation, just type them into the Q&A box found in your Zoom toolbar, and those questions will be answered after the presentation is finished. Okay, Sara, if you'd like to go ahead and share your screen, you can start whenever you're ready.
Great.
There we go.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sara McCormick. I'm one of the finalists for the Baxter Student Ambassador Program here at Humber College, and today I'm going to be talking to you about Transat in Paris. So I'm going to quickly run through our agenda for this afternoon. I'll first introduce myself and the presentation, and then I'm going to roll into Paris and the highlights of what people should see when they visit the city. Then I'm going to start the Transat component of the presentation and talk about the flight offerings to Paris, then move into the tour and hotel offerings that Transat has in Paris. Then I'll wrap it up and open it to questions that you may have for me. So I'll take this opportunity to speak a little bit about myself, my experiences, and how I've gotten to where I am today. So I grew up in Oakville, Ontario, just outside of Toronto in the GTA. I've always been a really big fan of traveling and culture and languages. I've spoken French for my entire life, and I'm currently learning how to speak Spanish. So I love learning about cultures and seeing how different people travel experience on my own. Was actually to France when I was in the 12th grade for a credit program. I spent 2 weeks in Paris and then 2 weeks in the south of France. And I absolutely loved it. It was an amazing opportunity for me to be able to practice my French and see a new culture. And I really felt quite independent on that trip. And it really opened my eyes to my love of travel that continues to this day. So my first post-secondary education experience program and graduated in 2016. From there, I went immediately into the Travel Services Management program here at Humber College. I've had a phenomenal experience, and I really feel like I've learned so much about the industry that I didn't realize was a part of the industry. Over my 2 years, I've met amazing people, my peers and my instructors. The photo in the middle at the top there is of me at the ACTA conference in 2016, where I got to see a variety of speakers speaking about different areas of the industry. So I really feel like I've been able to learn about the different facets of the travel industry and where I might be interested in working in the future. This past summer, I was lucky enough to actually have a job in the industry working as a trip leader for West Coast Connection, which is a teen travel company. It essentially sends students across the globe for experiential learning trips. The one that I was leading, it was me and 4 other trip leaders. We took 40 students to California, Arizona, Nevada, and Utah. It was a really great way for me to see how tour operations work. So firsthand, being on the trip and seeing all the details, all the paperwork, everything that's required for a tour, as well as the pre-trip planning. At the training for this program, we got to see all the organization and orchestrating that was needed to run tours like this. So it was a really great way for me to really understand tour operations and kind of dip my toe into the tour industry before finishing school. Another wonderful travel experience that I've had in my life, in my 3rd year at Queen's, I was lucky enough to be able to do an exchange program to KU Leuven. It's in Leuven, Belgium, just outside of Brussels. I was there for 6 months, and it was an incredibly immersive experience for me. Unlike any other travel that I'd done, I was actually living somewhere and got to experience the culture firsthand. So that was really one of the formative experiences that made me think that I wanted to get into the travel industry and make travel my career. So that's one of the big reasons why I'm here today. As I've mentioned, I've done quite a bit of travel. I've been lucky enough to see a lot of the world. I've seen quite a bit of North America. I'm an avid snowboarder, so I've seen a lot of places that offer snowboarding and skiing throughout North America, as well as 2 years ago, my cousin and I did a road trip from the East Coast to the West Coast of Canada, a really phenomenal way to see the entire country from coast to coast. When I was on my exchange, I really grew to know Belgium quite well. I visited most of the major cities in Belgium and also a lot of Europe because of the cheap flights throughout the continent. So I felt really that I got a wonderful taste of Europe while I was there for 6 months. Iceland was one of my favorite trips that I did with one of my friends from exchange. We did a road trip around the Ring Road in Iceland. Most recently, I did a trip to Central America this past summer with one of my peers from Humber College. We started down in Panama and went all the way up to Guatemala. And that I've ever been to a country that is not necessarily westernized, and it really inspired me to see more of this part of the world. So South America is definitely next on my travel bucket list, hopefully this summer. So now that I've introduced you to myself and how I've gotten to where I am, I'm now going to jump into the Paris component of this presentation, and I'm going to explain to you what I think are the important things to see, give you a little rundown on Paris and some of the neighborhoods. So Paris is known as the City of Lights. When you're flying into the city as an international flight, you would generally will fly into the Charles de Gaulle airport. The currency is the euro, so €1 is approximately $1.50 Canadian, $1.50 Canadian. Obviously, the official language in France is French, but many people in the city, most people in the city speak English as well. It's taught quite ubiquitously throughout the schools. The population is quite low at 2.2 million, but geographically it's quite a large city, divided into 20 arrondissements, which essentially means neighborhoods. So Paris really is a city of different neighborhoods. It's very diverse, and there's lots to see and do in these different areas. So I'll speak to those a little bit later. So obviously the first thing you think of generally as a tourist, you think of the Eiffel Tower when you think of Paris. It's the first thing maybe you think about, and also generally it's one of the city sites that you see as you're driving in from the airport. So it was designed by Gustave Eiffel in 1889 for the Paris exhibition. It wasn't actually supposed to be a permanent fixture in the city, but because grew to be so popular, it's really wonderful that it stayed. It's actually now one of the most visited paid monuments in the entire world. If your clients are going to be going to the Eiffel Tower via the metro, advise them to get off at the Trocadero stop and they can walk directly from there. Climbing the stairs to the top of the Eiffel Tower will save your clients a lot of time in lineups for the elevator, and lots of people have said that they actually prefer to do the stairs, sorry about that, over the elevator, a different experience than what people generally will experience taking the elevator up. So the option to pre-book tickets can also save time, but depending how long your clients are in Paris, if they want a specific time to go up the Eiffel Tower, it can depend on the weather. So if they wanted to base it on the weather, maybe advise them to wait and not pre-book their tickets. The Louvre is another place that people generally want to see when they go to Paris. It's the biggest museum in the world. I was amazed as to how large it was when I saw it, when I was walking around. It's located in the first arrondissement, and it takes up a large chunk of that neighborhood, which is a testament to how large it is. It's the home of the Mona Lisa, and you can tell where the Mona Lisa is based on the huge crowd standing around a very small painting. Again, if your clients are going to be taking the metro to the Louvre, I advise them to get off at the Palais Royal Musée du Louvre stop, and they can walk right to it. The last thing that I would definitely recommend for your clients, depending on their length of stay, of course, is the Palace of Versailles. So it's located not actually in the heart of Paris, but just outside the city, about an hour. They can drive if they have a car, they can take a bus, or they can take a train, depending on their preference. Tickets can be ordered online to save time and to ensure that they will get in on the day that they want to get in. If the weather is nice, there's a nice lawn that your clients can have a picnic on. They could stop at a market on their way out of the city, pick up a baguette and things for sandwiches. And it's a beautiful place for a picnic and to admire the gardens, which are one of the hidden gems of Versailles. Arrive early for less crowds, and advise your clients to arriving early. We'll also offer them the opportunity of better photo ops with less people. So as I was saying, Paris is a city of neighborhoods. So I'm only going to cover 4 of them right now, but there are so many places that your clients can see. I'm going to begin with the Champs-Élysées, especially high-end luxury shops. That is the place to go. It's located right by the Arc de Triomphe, and it's a beautiful walk because as you're walking along the Champs-Élysées, you can see the Arc de Triomphe in the background or as you're walking towards it. A very, very high-end street and a great place to do some shopping. Montmartre is another area. It has the Sacré-Cœur Basilica. It's beautiful in the distance if you're just walking around the neighborhood, or you can also explore the Sacré-Cœur Basilica itself. You can go up to the steps and go inside if you are interested in that. A very beautiful neighborhood to explore. The Latin Quarter, which is just south of the Seine, is a very student-oriented neighborhood. It has the Sorbonne and the Collège de France, and is very lively and youthful. There's lots of bars and restaurants. So if your clients are looking for that kind of vibe or somewhere to go out and have a nice nightlife, the Latin Quarter is definitely a great recommendation for that. The Île de la Cité is the last natural island on the Seine River, very accessible for tourists. There's bridges connecting it to the mainland. It's where the Notre Dame Cathedral is, so a lot of people want to see that. That's where they're going to go to see the Notre Dame Cathedral, and it's very accessible and a great walk through the city. Using the metro in Paris is a wonderful way to get around the city. It's the second busiest metro system in the world, so it's very efficient at transporting people from one place to another. Most of the destinations that your clients are going to want to see in the city are very close to a metro station, and surely their hotel will also be close to a metro station. It's very well situated throughout the city. When I was there, I got a Navigo weekly pass, which costs just less than $23. If your clients are going to be using it, the subway or the metro rather, 2 or 3 times a day, it's absolutely worth their money. It's a great way to people watch and also to see how locals get around the city. So it's an experience in and of itself. I'm now going to jump into the Transat component of my presentation. I'm going to speak to the offerings that Transat has in Paris. So first of all, the flights. Transat offers flights from 5 Canadian cities. So Vancouver, Calgary, Toronto, Quebec City, and Montreal. Calgary is the only city that doesn't have a direct flight to Paris, but it connects in either Toronto or Montreal. It's also worth noting that Quebec City has infrequent flights, less frequent than the other ones. So if it's shoulder season, definitely check the times that are being offered, the dates that are being offered, before advising your clients to fly out of Quebec City. Maybe alternate and go to Montreal instead. So worth noting there and making note for your clients as well. But definitely a great array of cities to fly out of from Canada. So flight features that Transat flights offer include club class, seat selection, and baggage allowance. Club class is essentially a type of first class. It's a premium price, of course, but if your clients are interested in more spacious options, that is definitely the way to go, and they don't mind paying that premium. They will also get a checked bag extra from the first one that they're going to get, as well as a selection of gourmet meals on board, designed by a chef. Seat selection is something you can offer your clients that are going to be flying in economy. It gives them the option of sit beside their family for the flight, or if they want window or aisle seat, they can do that up to 24 hours in advance of their flight. Baggage allowance is really wonderful on Transat. The first piece of baggage is always included regardless of the class of service. Then depending on the class of service, you may get a second included piece. For example, economy plus or club class will give you a second piece of baggage to bring with you. So I'm going to delve into the Toronto to Paris flight, as Toronto is a very popular place for people to fly out of. As you can see, the cheapest time for people to go on Transat to Paris is April, May, and June of this year. That aligns with the shoulder season of Paris, so it makes sense that it's a little bit cheaper to go. September, October, November, the fall is also cheaper in the winter. So those are the cheaper times to go. Obviously, July is the more expensive as it coincides with the peak season of going to Paris. If your clients have any flexibility, recommend to them that they go in either the spring or the fall or even the winter, because the flights not only are cheaper, it's also going to be a lot less busy in the streets of Paris. There's going to be less lineups, and they may enjoy that. And they may enjoy having a little bit less foot traffic throughout the city when they go. If they don't have flexibility, July and August, obviously it's peak season for a reason. It's beautiful weather. Just advise them that it may be a little bit busier than if they have gone before, not in peak season. Hotel offerings that Transat has in Paris there are many hotels. So you can filter what your client's looking for based on location, star rating, and price. So where they want to be in the city, what kind of class of hotel they want, as well as how much they're willing to pay. So the hotels are available as a package. You can put in the dates that your clients are looking for, and then it'll give you a flight, return flight, and hotels throughout that time. So it makes it very easy as to what you want, to refine what you're looking for your clients based on if they want a package or whatever other types of things they're looking for their hotel. So I'm now going to speak to the tour offerings that Transat has in Paris. So I've categorized it into two types of tours. So there's the Paris-only tour options, which is I'm going to speak to now, as well as the multi-day, multi-city itineraries. So the Paris-only option is maybe for someone who wants to extend their stay in Paris and just do day trips, versus the multi-day excursions, tours rather, will be for someone who is interested in seeing multiple cities on their visit, not just Paris, but Paris is included on those itineraries. So the first one, the Paris-only tour options, they begin and they end in Paris. And they can be single or multi-day, but that they will begin and end in Paris. For example, the Mont Saint-Michel that I have highlighted here, Mont Saint-Michel with guide excursion, is 14 hours. They depart Paris in the morning and then return to Paris in the evening with a guide on a bus, so they will begin and end in the city. The multi-day tours, for example, the Paris Pass, for 3 days you will get access to a bus and access to many different attractions in the city, and it gives your clients the flexibility to, if they have a little bit of a longer time in Paris, decide what they would like to do based on their day trips. So the tours offer either a private guide or headsets, depending on the nature of the tour. Make sure when you're offering this to your clients that you check the specific time periods that these tours are offered, because they aren't necessarily offered year-round. Oftentimes it'll be when the peak periods are. So make sure that you are offering your clients the tours that are offered when they are there. Reserving ahead of time is definitely advised so that they can add it to their itinerary, as well as the fact that you want to make sure that you can get your client on that tour. You don't want them to be doing it last minute, or you don't want to be doing it last minute for them so that they end up selling out the tour and don't have the option to go. So I'm now going to speak to the multi-day tours. These tours are multi-city, multi-day tours. So they do go to Paris, but perhaps only for 2 or 3 days, and then they go to other cities as well. So for example, the Tour of France begins and ends in Paris, but also visits many other cities in France on the same tour. So these tours are great for anyone who's maybe a little bit hesitant to plan their own trip, wants something a little bit easier. It really facilitates the travel. They can hop on the plane, arrive in the destination that they're starting from, and then it's all taken care of for them. The trip is entirely planned, so it's a little bit less of a headache for them to plan anything. So this is great for someone like that. Recommend that for clients who are looking for ease of travel. So the guided tours, the multi-day guided tours, include a round-trip flight in economy on Air Transat, transfers from the airport to the hotel at the beginning of the trip, and then from the hotel to the airport at the end of the trip. Coach transportation throughout the entire tour from city to city, as well as the services of a private guide, which is really phenomenal for your clients. They'll be able to speak to this guide about what to do in the cities that they're going to. They'll have advice. They've been to these places many, many times, and they know it really well. It also, again, facilitates the travel. They take care of everything and will make sure that your clients are enjoying themselves. Obviously, hotels and destinations are also included, as well as for each tour, certain meal inclusions, and it'll vary by tour, but all the tours do have meal inclusions. The last thing I'm going to talk about is Transat's sustainability initiative. Throughout my time at Humber and aided by other travel experiences, I've come to be very passionate about sustainable travel. I was really happy to see that Transat is very dedicated to the cause. Through numerous projects and initiatives, it's clear that it's a priority in Transat's daily operations. It's also something that you can speak to your clients about. Consumers are more and more thinking about spending their dollars responsibly, especially in travel. So if they can spend it on something that they can see that the company is focused on sustainability as well, that could be a draw for them as well. So Transat engages in humanitarian projects, such as the Haiti Development and the No to Child Sex Tourism campaign. They also focus on environmental responsibility with their fuel savings programs for Air Transat and the energy savings in their facilities. They also offer responsible options by encouraging their partners in the industry to hold themselves to similar standards and ensuring that their excursions don't cause any harm to the areas that they visit. So I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you for your time and your attention. I really enjoyed researching this topic, and I'm so thankful for the opportunity to be a finalist for the Baxter Student Ambassador Program. I'm so excited to begin my career in the industry and continue to develop my skills and my knowledge. And I feel like this was a great opportunity to delve into something a little bit deeper, learn a little bit more about the industry and the offerings that are available out there. I aspire to work in community development and sustainable travel to be able to create lasting and meaningful change through tourism. So I'd like to now open up the floor to any questions that you may have.
Thank you so much, Sara.
Thank you.
Okay, so Dennis Smith says, no questions. That was well presented.
Thank you.
Diane says, hi, Sara. Do you suggest Paris for a family with teenagers?
I absolutely would. I think that Paris is really a wonderful option for many different demographics. I think that because it's so large and there's so much that it offers, you don't have to do certain things. So for example, if the teenagers aren't necessarily interested in art, maybe don't go to the Louvre, but go to the Eiffel Tower or take a bateau mouche tour on the Seine. There's many things that will be of interest to different people. It's a very approachable city to go to and really has different offerings for different demographics.
Great, thanks. And then her other question is, what is one key tip you would suggest to a first-time traveler to Paris?
Ooh, good question. I think that making sure, I think that if you were to go in the shoulder season, so if you were to go in either the spring or the fall, or even going in the winter, it will be far less busy than in the summer. The summer, it's incredibly busy, still beautiful, but if you're able to go and you have the flexibility in your schedule to go at an off-peak time, you'll be able to see the city in a different light and not have to wait in crowds, and it won't be as busy, and you'll kind of see more what the locals see.
Okay, great, thank you. And Diane says, great stuff, thanks.
Thank you.
Kevin asks, how does Transat differentiate themselves from key competitors, such as Sunwing or Air Canada Vacations?
I would say from Sunwing especially, Transat distinguishes themselves because they are incredibly varied in what they offer. They don't just offer destinations to the sun, right? So Sunwing is more tropical locations, whereas Transat offers the entire globe essentially. And from Air Canada, when I was doing my research about the sustainability component, I didn't know this, but having done quite a bit of research about this, adding new projects as we continue to move forwards, and very, very aware of the different issues throughout the world. So I think for me especially, I think that's very important, having that sustainability component, as it will become more important to consumers as we go forwards. It's important now, but I think even more so it will be going forwards.
Excellent, thank you. And Kevin says, thanks, excellent work.
Thanks.
And we can allow another 30 seconds or so for people to submit any questions they may have.
Great.
Oh, okay, I do believe that's it for the questions. Oh, sorry, one second. Oh, sorry, a question was just submitted to the chat box here. How is Paris for seniors? Any special advice for them?
I would say just making sure that the hotel that you're booking for your clients has accessible options, right? So if your clients are elderly and they don't like walking upstairs, making sure that there's an elevator. A lot of the buildings in Paris are quite old, so it's possible that they could be booked into a hotel with no elevator and it's not accessible for those clients. So making sure that everything they're doing, so the hotel to begin with, all the excursions, if they maybe get tired a little bit faster or they can't walk for very long, making sure that you're taking that into account and not putting them on a 3-hour walking tour, for example, just making sure it's accessible for their abilities.
Of course, yeah. Thanks, Sara.
No problem.
So I believe that wraps up the Q&A, but I'd like to thank everyone that tuned into the webinar today. Thank you all for taking time out of your day. And Sarah, thanks again for your great presentation and for participating in the Baxter Student Ambassador Program for 2018.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. So you take care and we'll be in touch.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone.